Salute, Nick Streets. We're still buzzing. The champs are looking to repeat. And we're going to talk about the roster move, the situation right now, where Tyler Nickel is all in on being a pro, according to Ian Begley. Jack Cahill, the other Knicks draft pick, is staying overseas. Trey Jemison ain't coming back, along with Jeremy Sohan. So what's up with the next move? And tonight we're going to talk about Tyler Nickel sticking around and what is the best deal that I think the Knicks absolutely need to do. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to Replay Squad. How's everybody feeling? Hope everyone's had a blessed week. Look forward to chopping it up tonight, man. A chill live stream where we can talk about anything, man. You want to talk about our New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson, enjoying the quietest month of the season, man. Off-season, August. But we're looking ahead, man. Eagerly anticipating this upcoming season. The NBA schedule is going to drop next week, I think on Wednesday. And there'll be leaks earlier in the week, but officially I think the full schedule will drop by next Wednesday or so. And looking forward to seeing what's up on opening night. Obviously Christmas Day, the big banner night ring ceremony is going to be amazing. And I can't wait for that night overall. But we've had some news come through this week. And tonight, man, we're going to talk about what is the situation with Tyler Nickel, because there was a deadline that passed where the Knicks needed to tender an offer to their draft picks. And they did to both Jack Cahill and Tyler Nickel in order to retain their draft rights. So that was critical. And I shout out to, I think it was The Athletic, James L. Edwards, I think was first on that. But the deadline had passed. There was no word on what the Knicks had done. So they tendered those offers. And obviously Jack Cahill, the Knicks will retain his rights. However, upon discussions, there's no room for Cahill, and he doesn't really want to be on the two-way right now because the buyout situation with his European club would have been tricky, and he's decided to stay in Europe for one more season at least and work on his game. And I think it's a solid move overall. You know, we'll talk about it tonight, guys, but, you know, Cahill with Alvarado, with Kolek, Deuce McBride, Jalen Brunson, Jordan Clarkson, there's not going to be many minutes and opportunities, despite how impressive Jack Cahill was during Summer League. Really liked what I saw, and by reports, Chris Procyon and reports front office were very impressed by Jack Cahill and thought that he looks NBA ready. But I think there's a roster crunch, and I think we're trying to repeat. And obviously, you know, the clock starting on his rookie contract didn't really make too much sense until we figure out what to do with Kolek and Deuce McBride, I think, moving forward. So I think that was a wise decision, and kind of the writing was on the wall early, you know, after the draft when Ian Begley reported heading into free agency that the idea was that Cahill would return to Europe. But the same cannot be said for the 47th overall pick, Tyler Nickel, ladies and gentlemen, who also impressed during Summer League and looks NBA ready. And with the Knicks having $3.2 million left below the second apron, right? Report came out this week from Ian Begley that despite college interest and speculation in the thinking of Tyler Nickel, he's thinking about, I want to start my pro career, right? He is all in on going pro, right? So with that said, we're going to operate tonight, man, on the basis of Tyler Nickel is going to be with this team one way or another. We're going to discuss the two options, right, that the Knicks have. One, to the left, Tyler Kolek, who was a second-round draft pick and who was given a second-round pick exception and a 4-year deal after he was drafted. And one option to the right, Ariel Hukporti, who was also drafted in the second round by the New York Knicks and given a two-way contract. And ultimately, the two fates have become very different. And so we're going to talk about why I think it's critical when the Knicks decide to give Tyler Nickel a deal. We're going to go through either scenario and talk about the differences, ladies and gentlemen, and ultimately the fate that was decided by Ariel Hukporty deciding to go to Philadelphia. Well, it wasn't much of a decision to make because he got paid a bag that the Knicks weren't prepared and weren't able to give him because of a critical decision that the Knicks made after they drafted Ariel Hukporty. And I do not want the New York Knicks to make the same mistake, right? It could be a mistake that comes back to hurt the New York Knicks if they don't give Tyler Nickel the right deal. So we'll talk about that right now, ladies and gentlemen. Smash that like button. You've got the Knicks streets buzzing. Let's take a quick look at the roster, like I said, before we dive in to that first segment and the conversation around what to do with Tyler Nickel now that he is very keen on being with the squad and being pro, right? Despite college interest, and no doubt, I don't think he's really too keen on a two-way deal to begin because the college route, is going to pay you more as well. But Nickel could start on a two-way deal and then get converted later into the season at any time. So that's going to be part of the conversation as well. But Shez V, salute champ. What's good? Fans New York and BK is in the building. Hope everyone's doing well, man. Big up and bless up. So I've taken Kyle out of the picture, the graphic, because he's, going to be overseas, and all the best to Jack Cahill. I think it's going to be good for his development, man, to try to run it back and repeat with his German club. He's out of the picture right now for this season. So is Trey Jemison, ladies and gentlemen. Surprisingly, Trey Jemison took a two-way with the Toronto Raptors, fam. And look, he could shake loose at some point later in the future, but obviously the Knicks had a chance to retain him. All it would have took was a two-way, and I think Trey would have stuck around. So that is a kind of a really surprising move, I'm going to say. Like, at least with the Knicks needing extra center depth, I would have thought, hey, why not bring back Trey, the champ, on a two-way deal? But whatever happened, that wasn't to be. Wish Trey Jemison, man, all the best in the six. And look, the Knicks obviously got other ideas, man. Leon Rose got other plans, working the phones. Obviously, we'll talk about some trade possibilities as well, fam. But yeah, I like the pickup of Drummond. Fans New York, Drummond will be huffing and puffing. I think it is obviously a situation where we're light at the 5 spot, no doubt about it. But I think Drummond can be serviceable. But obviously, I think we're looking for reinforcements in that area, right? Make no mistake, with the $3.2 million left, the Knicks could sign a veteran big man free agent, which would be a 2.45 cap hit, 2.45 million cap hit, and the Knicks would have about like $800,000 left, which wouldn't be enough to also sign Tyler Nickel at the start of the season. They could wait later into the season. So yeah, I'm interested to know which way you guys would go, man. Is the third center the most important thing right now? And signing that free agent for depth? Obviously, the trade conversations are a possibility as well. I think that's the best option overall, is to try to get rid of the salary of Pacome Dardier. He's making 2.9, right? Which is a significant hurdle right now for a guy that ain't in the playoff rotation. A guy ain't even the regular season rotation. Do you want to be paying a guy more than the minimum? But obviously the conundrum might be that, the Knicks might not have been able to find somebody to take Pacome's salary without giving up an asset, right? And look, ultimately, Leon Rose drafted Pacone with the first overall, with a first round pick, sorry, and he hasn't really impressed. Let's be real. So his trade value ain't going to be high at all, especially with the team option 5.3 million after this season for the next season coming up, for the 27-28 season. Right, so that ain't attractive right now. So the fact that Leon Rose drafted him, he might want to save face in the way of like, okay, let's see if I can get his trade value up a little bit if there's no takers for Pacome Dardier right now. And so I'm operating that like, okay, the Knicks have tried to get rid of Pacome Dardier and they can't right now. And so we're just going to start the season with Pacome on the squad, and we're going to see what we can do with the 14th spot or the 15th spot. That's what we're going to work out right now, ladies and gentlemen. Join the conversation. B cases, we don't need Sohan. Yeah, I agree. I think ultimately versatile defender, but man, he can't really do too much with the basketball. And I like to see what we have in Mo Diawara. He's going to get all those minutes. Tyler Nickel. I really want the Knicks to lock him up on the right deal right now. Larry says Drummond will be motivated and well coached by Brown and the coach staff. Yeah, we hope he comes into shape. Yeah, I think he's going to be motivated, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, let's get into this conversation now in regards to Tyler Nickel and why I think this decision is so important, right? For anyone not familiar with the cap situation, we're going to spell it out right now. So hit that thumbs up. We're running it back, ladies and gentlemen. The Knicks are going to hopefully repeat, and hopefully Tyler Nickel impresses in his rookie season, all in on being pro. Shout out to Ian Begley and SNY for that, for being first on that situation. So it looks like Tyler's not going to go back to college, and I really, really, really respect that, man. He wants to be a Knick as we look at some of these highlights. Tyler Nickel's 22 going on 23. I don't blame him if he doesn't, want to go back to college and wants to make an impact at the pros. Had a really impressive summer league. You see him knocking down the three ball, shot over 41% from downtown. His defense was adequate. He could bulk up, hopefully get in that weight room and put on some more muscle. But right now, man, it's up to Leon Rose. Right, 2 roster spots are open. There's a couple different ways the Knicks can operate right now on the basis that they're not going to trade Pacome Dardier to free up more money until later in the season. Right, so my thinking right now, man, with this graphic is what the Knicks did when they drafted Tyler Kolek was excellent. Right, Kolek had, 2 years with the New York Knicks right now. Rookie season was, really a non-factor, but his sophomore season, it's fair to say was a factor, I think, at least during the regular season. And so now, heading into his 3rd year, the New York Knicks don't have to worry financially about Tyler Kolek. Even if he bowls out in his 3rd season, he's still under contract for the 4th season right now. And that is possible all because the New York Knicks and Tom Thibodeau at the time, who really liked Tyler Kolek coming out of Marquette, they decided we like this guy and we're going to give him the richest 2nd round, contract in NBA history. Right. Now the Knicks don't have to do the same thing with Tyler Nickel, and they're not going to. But what's key is that the New York Knicks were able to give Tyler Kolek a 4-year deal, ladies and gentlemen, right out of the gate, because they owned his draft rights, and it was the first contract they gave him, which is the key point in this whole situation. It's got to be the first contract that you give to the player that you drafted. And so Tyler Kolek, man, is on a minuscule deal, team-friendly, and similar to the Deuce McBride deal, because they took him in the 2nd round and they gave him the 2nd round pick exception, which allows the team to give you a 3 or 4 year deal. Now we flip over to the right Similar situation, but different outcome with Ariel Hukporty, man. A guy that I'm not mad about that we lost him. You can make a case that, you know, he would have been good to stick around and be the third string and develop some more. But ultimately, we're going to talk about how, the Knicks, how the fate of Ariel Hukporty was decided by the first deal that he was given, which I don't want to happen with the Tyler Nickel situation, right? So everyone's talking about the Knicks have 2 spots left. They've got just $3.2 million remaining, right? Everyone's looking at the third center like, okay, let's try to sign Nick Richards. Let's try to sign Bismack Biyombo. Let's try to sign Drew Eubanks, whoever is available that takes your fancy and and feels like you could help this team out. But that would be a full veterans minimum cap hit of 2.45 million, ladies and gentlemen, which wouldn't leave enough money for Tyler Nickel to sign a second round pick exception. So what's going to happen is the Knicks could only offer Tyler Nickel a two-way to start. So based on these two scenarios, you know what I'm getting at. If the Knicks were to offer Tyler Nickel a two-way contract, right? That's the first NBA contract that he gets, which rules him out of signing a second round pick exception later into the future, right? Because it's got to be the first contract, right? So if he gets a two-way first, they can only sign him to a 2-year deal at max if they decide to convert him later. If and when the New York Knicks convert Tyler Nickel after the two-way deal to a standard deal, it can only be a 2-year deal. So that's what ended up happening with Ariel Hukporty, right? The Knicks are hard capped almost at the second apron, and in a couple of years' time, man, they're going to have Brunson on the books with more money, Cat, OG. It's going to be tough. So it could be a similar situation to what happened with Ariel Hukporty, where 2-year deal, let's say Nickel balls out, gets to his 3rd year, and all of a sudden the Knicks don't have the money. A team comes in and says, yeah, 5-6 million, we'll take Tyler Nickel away. And all because the Knicks' first contract that they give the man is critical right now. So in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, I would put aside the third center spot right now and fix that out later. Work out a trade in season, do a prorated, non-guaranteed deal after the season begins. That way you could sign, a free agent prorated deal, and you could fit that as the 15th man later. What I would do, man, I would prioritize. If you're deciding that you're going to sign Tyler Nickel, you sign him to a second round pick exception right now, and you give him the Tyler Kolek, Deuce McBride treatment. You give him that 3 or 4 year deal with team options and flexibility, cost control, and you make sure, man, that if he balls out, you're good. And so you've got to give the man the second round pick exception and fix that center spot later in terms of the third spot. Otherwise, it could be a Hukporty situation all over again, man. Isaiah Hartenstein. I mean, how many times are the Knicks going to give a 2-year deal to a player and then they ball out and then it becomes difficult? So yeah, I do feel like this decision is going to be pretty important. And if Nickel is rejecting a college deal, which is worth, quite a lot of money, over $1 million, I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks are looking at giving Nickel an actual standard deal right off the gate. What do you guys think, man? D. Grant's in the building. Salute to AP. Paul, great to see you, champs. D. Grant says, CT, I do not agree with you on the center. The priority should be a center and not a jump shooter. Yeah, I love everyone's opinion, differing opinions on this one. I'm not trying to say that the center spot ain't important, the third string, because Drummond, yeah, it could be hit or miss. So I feel you on that. All I'm trying to say is that, you don't want to mess up the nickel, future flexibility, right? If you give nickel a two-way deal, then you're restricted to only giving him a 2-year deal, and then you run the risk of what happens in the future. With that said, and like I said, I really like what they did with Tyler Kolek, because even if he has an amazing third year, the fourth year is team control as well. So I think, and it could be really enticing for a team to trade for Tyler Kolek, right? Let's continue that trade conversation, because if a team's looking to trade for Tyler Kolek, he's under cost control for 2 more seasons. So that could be attractive to a team like Phoenix. That could be attractive to a team like the Houston Rockets, who are expensive and are needing a point guard. And then, we look at the Huck Porty situation, man. All it took was 3.4 million, and Philly took him away. So I don't want the same situation happening with Tyler Nickel. And so I would give him the standard treatment right now and give him the second round pick exception and give him a 3 or 4 year deal, team control. And then what I would do after the opening night, what the New York Knicks can do, ladies and gentlemen, is they could sign Nick Richards, they could sign anyone else to a non-guaranteed prorated deal right after opening night. The money isn't completely locked into the cap for the full season. If you were to sign Tyler Nickel to the 14th spot, the 15th spot you could sign a free agent after the season commences, and you could just give them a non-guaranteed deal in terms of the big man situation. Because let's be real, all of these free agents out there, man, in the big man spot, they ain't going nowhere, man. It's slim pickings right now, right? You're either going to decide on Nick Richards, Bismack, Drew Eubanks, whoever else is out there, fam. They ain't going to be much of a factor in the first month of the season anyways, if we're being real. To be fair, I'd rather OG Anunoby playing minutes at the 5 rather than any of these guys. New York Yankee says Knicks need to prioritize nickel. That's a big guard. That's an elite shooter. Those players can make it impossible to guard for the New York Knicks. Hey, I like that comment, man. I appreciate that. I think he could guard 3s and 4s. Can Tyler Nickel. I don't think he's shifty enough to guard 2s, but we saw in Summer League, the length and the 6'7", size does help. Does help, fam. And look, it's still somewhat of a little gamble as well, because I'm not saying Tyler Nickel's going to light it up. But what you don't want happening is, you run the risk of giving him a 2-year deal, all because you gave him a 2-way first up. And we're talking about, not able to trade Pacome Dardier. You can always start a non-guaranteed center after the season begins, and then you trade Dardier or somebody else by the January deadline, and then you're able to stay below the second apron and still fit 15 guys on the roster. So that's the key point that I'm trying to make. But earlier, like D. Grant says, Cat Drummond are not good rim protectors. Knicks need that if they're going to repeat. Oh, for sure. I mean, I know the Knicks are going to figure out that center spot later in the season. I think they're trying to trade for the right guy. But right now, that deal, it just might not be out there, fam. And so I would just start a non-guaranteed center like Liam Robbins, bring him into camp. Bring in, Moses Brown, bring in a couple of these guys, battle it out, a couple of vets, sign them to an Exhibit 9. The best guy that looks good, after the season kicks off, all the Exhibit 9s get cut. And then after the season begins, if he clears waivers, you can sign him to a non-guaranteed deal. And you can fit 15 guys. I just think Tyler Nickel, talent-wise, is more important right now, getting him on the right contract. than the third string center, which you're going to figure out, I think, later. Um, but you guys let me know what you think, fam. We shout it out. My priority is obviously try to move off of Pacome Dardier. That's the most important thing right now, but I just don't think it's possible because if you're trying to get the center you want, like you're gonna have to give up Kolek. You're gonna have to give up Deuce. Cahill's going back overseas. Yeah, we talked about that. Darvel Rodriguez, salute. Um, we're just talking about the nickel situation and what the Knicks can do with his first contract. Nickel not going back to college. Yep, that was the last we all heard. Yeah, he wants to start his pro career, and I think it's wise to give him a standard deal and not the two-way. Now, interestingly, though, the Knicks didn't bring back Trey Jemison, so it looks like they've got other players in mind for the two-way contract. So, yeah, look, the Knicks don't even have Kevin McCullough yet on a two-way. So I would hope they bring back Kevin McCullough. He would be some nice depth at the wing spot. He could guard multiple positions as well. The shot is a work in progress, but the defense is NBA ready. But in terms of, the three two-way spots, man, the Knicks are the only NBA team without a two-way player yet. So it looks like, we're lining some guys up. Hopefully, man, we don't bring back Dylan Jones. Yeah, with the situation of Deuce, that's going to be a storyline, man, all season. Expiring contract year though, critical to the Knicks' chances of repeating. However, my thing was like, okay, if Cahill stuck around, it's like, okay, Deuce, you're really under the spotlight. But Cahill's gone back overseas, so I'm thinking Deuce might make it through the whole season. It all depends, I guess, on what center becomes available, Look, in the defense of Drummond, he was more durable than Mitch. He played over 63 games. So, he can play back-to-backs. Is he going to have to play 15 minutes, 20 minutes? Depends on how durable Cat is going to be and also how, Cat is able to stay out of foul trouble. AP getting a little impatient with the center situation. I can't believe it's taken this long to replace Hakporty. Yeah, I just don't think the Knicks are prioritizing who's available right now. I think they wanted Musa Cisse, they wanted Musa Diabate, they wanted Yves Missy. A player like Daniel Gafford, is on the trade block, but he's too expensive right now. He's on 15 million. We might need to see what happens after camp. That could be another thing. Remember, guys, look at all the other teams around the league. They make cuts. They make cuts after training camp. That's another reason why the Knicks, be prepared. I think they're going to bring in some bodies in camp just to battle it out and see if anyone else on other squads can impress and get cut. That's the other thing, man. With Bismack, I know he's got experience. Maybe he comes in as a training camp, but I would go definitely the opposite of that. I would go young, man. I would go more athletic. I think we've got the experience we need in Drummond. I think we've got experience in Karl Anthony Towns. OG could be a part-time guy at the 5. Mo Diawara could give you some small ball 5 in a pinch. And so, yeah, I'm not panicking at the 5 spot right now because I think the Knicks will fix that up. But I think it might be into the season, So the 14th spot looks like maybe nickel. Depends if they can trade Pacome Dardier. I don't know how those conversations are going. And I'm surprised we're not really hearing too much conversations about, how close a Pacome Dardier trade might be. I think the Knicks, if I have to guess, the Knicks would have to attach a second-round pick to have somebody take his contract. And I don't think the Knicks are willing to do that right now. you could always hope, and this is wishful thinking, but you could hope that his trade value might go up if you just hold on to him a little bit longer and see. Maybe he has a great summer and, comes into preseason. Unfortunately, he didn't have a good summer league, and that hurt, because I think if Pacome Dardier had a great summer league, maybe we'd start to hear some more noise. In fact, I was more looking towards his defense, and I was very underwhelmed by Pacome Dardier's defense. I know he needs to improve with the handles. The shooting wasn't quite consistent, but defensively, you're 6'9". You got length. You need to be a factor on the defensive side if you're Pacome. His defense didn't impress me. But it is just summer league, and this could be the final year of his Knicks tenure right now, because he gets expensive. After this season, man, Pacome Dardier is on 5.3 million, man. That's Landry Shamet money. That's Jose Alvarado money. And so, yeah, if he doesn't ball out and crack the rotation, then it's safe to say that I think this will be the final season with Pacome Dardier. But look, ultimately, it's up to him, because if he does, pop, if he does, become consistent and crack that rotation, which is highly unlikely, or if the coaching staff sees something in him that develops, there's a chance that the Knicks pick up that option. But right now, I doubt it, man. I think the Knicks will have a decision to make on the following season option on Pacome Dardier by October, and I think they're probably going to decline, man, that option. They could still try to work out a deal after that, at a cheaper number, but we'll see what plays out, fam. Also, we could scour the G League, put together some of these non-guaranteed guys. You guys let me know. We've got the Knicks streets in the building, man. Celebrate. All the champs are here. The New York Knicks. We're talking about the 14th and the 15th roster right now. We're in the dog days of the off season, but I'm enjoying it, fam. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying some rest. But we're 2 months away from preseason ball, and are getting closer and closer to opening night. You guys let me know. Who would you like out of these remaining free agents? Optimus says McCullough can ball. Yeah, he makes a lot of sense for the final 3 two-way spots. The Knicks have yet to fill any of those spots right now. I like Drummond's ability to shoot. Don't forget, is this a really underrated factor that we're not really hearing much about, man? This man, born and bred, Jose, GTA 5, man, his first full season as a New York Knick. Remember, it ain't easy as a point guard being thrust into the spotlight for just 2 months, traded from the lowly Pelicans, came in and balled out. Started with that huge game against Philadelphia with 9 threes, or was it 8 threes? And ever since then, man, he never looked back, man. He was the saving grace, man. Unsung hero, along with Mitchell Robinson and some other guys. But when we talk about unsung heroes in the NBA Knicks playoff run, look no further than Jose Alvarado. I mean, he said it himself, man. Probably the best 8 points he'll ever score in the NBA Finals. Completely changed that game. And shout out to Mike Brown. But yeah, Jose's coming back with continuity and a full season and a training camp with these guys, ladies and gentlemen. D. Grant says Nickel is another Novak. I think better defensively from what I've seen, but the shooting, obviously, the pro potential has to play out. Fritz is in the building. Salute to Fritz. How would you tackle the final couple of roster spots? Let us know your thoughts on that. Assuming the Knicks haven't been able to trade for the guy that they want, I think anyone we bring in, guys, is going to be a stopgap. That's why I'm shifting my focus to Tyler Nickel and making sure that he's on the right contract, and you could figure out the center spot, the third center spot into the season, right? That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say the center position ain't important right now, but it's kind of like, okay, pick your poison right now between the 14th and the 15th spot. Assuming we can't work out a trade with Pacome. Look, if you want to discuss a trade of Kolek or Deuce right now for the right center, then go for it. If that's the guy that you want, if you can get a Diabate, Korkbrenner even, somebody more impactful, go for it. But I don't think that's going to happen right now. I think it would have happened already. So as we talk about this move, man, I think it was first reported by a European outlet, and then it was picked up by the New York Knicks beat, Jack Cahill, going back to Europe on a 5-year deal, which I think just gives him financial security. It ain't anything that's going to hamstring the Knicks' ability to bring him in, I think, in a year's time. But most importantly, that Cahill's development, he's going to play. He's going to play every game. He's going to start, and he's going to try to repeat. And he's just not going to get minutes, if he was with this team, with this crowded front court right now. And I've thought about it for a couple of weeks now, and I'll give you my honest opinion. I think side by side, I think Tyler Kolek would be better for the New York Knicks this season anyway. I think Tyler Kolek is a more ready-made pro, and he's better as of this current day than Jack Cahill, based on what we've seen. You got to give the benefit of the doubt to Kolek. He was able to make an impact at the NBA level against San Antonio on the NBA Cup final, and also Christmas Day against Cleveland too. And look, let's not forget about that little playoff run in the fourth quarters, in the second and third round, where the Knicks were steamrolling Philly, Cleveland. Kolek was able to play in the fourth quarters of all of those games, pretty much. So yeah, I'm really high on Tyler Kolek's ability to be impactful, be an NBA player, an NBA rotation player right now. And I think either he stays with the Knicks, and look, he might slot into Deuce's future spot, or he makes another team very happy and they trade for a bargain and we get our big man. We get another big man out of him. Either way, I think it's going to work out like that. I think eventually Kolek might stick around if he develops further. It takes that spot. Maybe after Alvarado in a couple of years, or Deuce, or another team comes in and snatches him up. Don't forget, man, this was a Big East player, college player of the year, and a big moments kind of player. And I saw a lot of development from Kolek in his second year. So I think his third year is going to be the best of his career so far. And look, Clarkson, we know, is probably coming back for the vibes. He's coming back for veteran leadership. He's coming into this locker room still and provided some depth. It's a grueling regular season, and so I'm happy that we're bringing back Clarkson. However, I would not prioritize him ahead of Kolek, right? I would prioritize Kolek ahead of Clarkson in terms of minutes, and just give him the first opportunity. Okay, I see Kai Jones being mentioned in the chat. Kind of forgot about Kai Jones. I'm not sure where he's at right now. D. Grant says, what about Korkbrenner as a backup center? I would be happy. I would be over the moon with Korkbrenner, and I think he's a guy that they've discussed. I do think they like Diabate as well before him, but yeah, Korkbrenner's got that rim protection. He's got that length too, fam. The defense. We need more defense. Now, I'm happy with the option of Drummond with screen setting and passing as a hub and a little bit of rim protection as a drop center. But in terms of shooting wise, I do think that he's going to bring something different to the table than what we've had in a minute. Darvell says him and Clarkson, the killer combo for the second unit. Yeah, those boys can play fast. That's why I like Kolek too. Kolek's more, he's got a better handle than Deuce. He can push the pace. Obviously, he's the best passer on the team as well. Don't forget that second unit with Cat, man. Kolek and Cat, talk about chemistry, man. Talk about the corner shooters as well. Kolek will find you. All you gotta do is get open, man. Kolek will find you, no matter where you are. Glenn, my man, says salute champs, salute CT. Pacome gotta go. Makes too much money. Trade him with Deuce and get that rim protector. Yeah, I think Leon's been busy. It's tough because it's been a short off season for the New York Knicks. Man, the day after the championship, the Knicks had to get into draft workouts. Clearly, the Knicks are looking at guys with NBA experience, even in the case of Moussa Cisse. The Knicks drafted Onyensu with the 53rd pick, and they thought, look, we're trying to repeat. We're not gonna put our trust in a guy with no NBA experience, right? We let Huck Porty walk. We're not bringing back Trey Jemison. So if you connect the dots, I think we bring in Drummond, another experienced guy. We tried to trade for Yves Missy and Diabate. All the moves and the talk lines up with the Knicks looking for somebody with experience, right? Now, if the Knicks were really keen on Nick Richards, I think that would have been done already. So I got the feeling now that the Knicks are just going to sign some bodies on non-guaranteed deals, and they're going to let them fight it out. Because I also think, out of respect to Drummond, they want to give him the opportunity. And to fans, this might not sound enticing, but in terms of the business side of things, if Drummond takes that discount, he takes the vet's minimum to come to the Knicks had to give him some insurances, some assurances to playing time. And so if you looked at the move we're trying to get with Cisse as the younger kind of up-and-coming big man, I think the Knicks are kind of looking along those lines right now to see. But look, I do think Pacome Dardier holds the key. He holds the key right now. He's 2.9 million, man. You can clear that off and get less money back. Now you're talking. Now you can give Tyler Nickel the deal that you want to give, and you can bring in the the third center that you want. So that is important too, fam. Also, I got to shout out the man, JC, Jordan Clarkson, who gave up his technical no trade clause by coming back as a free agent, vet's minimum deal, returning to the New York Knicks, right? He gave up his no trade clause. So Clarkson could be a nice little trade jewel for some team. If it shakes out where he's not getting many minutes, let's say best case scenario, Kolek pops, someone else takes some of those minutes, Nickel pops, and all of a sudden JC finds himself as just that cheerleader, vet guy in the locker room, and he's like, look, my work is done here. I want to get some playing time, maybe on another squad. Maybe a guy like Clarkson becomes a trade chip at the trade deadline as well. Too, fam. Now, this name I've been hearing quite a lot. Optimus, my guy, says, what about Ozo Ighodaro, backup center from the Phoenix Suns, is a name that I like. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because, again, he fits the bill. He's young. He's got some NBA experience. And I think that's kind of what the New York Knicks are looking at right now. Man, look, I shout out Leon and the crew for trying to get Musa Cisse. That deal really had me excited for the 24 hours that he was a New York Knick. But of course, Dallas matched. But I'm just glad that the New York Knicks at least did their due diligence with that one. It didn't work out, but it shows what the New York Knicks are trying to do. Shez V says, what big man is going to be a free agent in the following season? The ones right now, they're not needle movers right now. They're just warm bodies, and I think we could do with bringing in some guys into camp. I think Leon Robbins will come into camp. You see him on screen. He's a huge body that sets screens, can rebound, space the floor a little bit. Just a guy that could help us get through the first 3 months of the season. Maybe December we could shake a move. We could shake it up. Build up some trade value from a Kolek or a Dardier and get who we want. Right now, you know what Leon Rose does, man? He don't settle. He's not going to settle for some free agent bum that, he doesn't want to lock anyone in to a guaranteed contract. And a guy like Nick Richards, not saying he's a bum, but he might be a guy like, hey, I'm not signing with anyone unless it's guaranteed. I'm a 6-year veteran. So what I think the Knicks are probably going to do is, play the numbers game and just bring in these bodies on non-guarantees just to eat up some days of the regular season. Taj Gibson, I think, he's finished, retired once and for all. But man, I love Taj as an assistant coach, as a locker room guy. That would be awesome. Shares V says, Clarkson is at the tail end. Kolek just getting started. Yeah, exactly. And look, you got to prioritize cost control as well. Tyler Kolek, man, got 2 more years left at a cheap number, and he's got to be thinking himself, like his agent himself. He's got to be thinking like, okay, this could be make or break for my career now. I'm 26. I'm on a deep team. Either I get minutes or you move me, Leon, to somewhere where I can actually ball out. Because, I mean, there's a long list of teams that I think Kolek could actually help. Look at some of these teams that were playing like Gillespie, these guys, they were playing the other brothers. Even like the Golden State Warriors, they brought back Gary Payton. Steph's getting older. There's a lot of teams that could do with some ball handling, man. I think Tyler Kolek deserves minutes now. He's at the point where he's earned an opportunity somewhere, and so I think this is make or break. And look, Deuce McBride's situation is fluid. I'm excited to see what Deuce does in a contract year as well. I think the injuries did hurt Deuce during the playoffs. I think he's going to come out looking hot in the to start the season. Optimus got a trade that works in the trade machine. Deuce and Dardier plus 2 or 3 seconds to Phoenix and cash and the rights for Rokas for Iguodaro and Ryan Dunn. Interesting. That's quite a lot of maneuvering. Personally, I wouldn't give up Deuce in too many picks, but yeah, Ryan Dunn is a young prospect under cost control. Iguodaro would help the center depth. Yeah, I guess it depends on Kolek taking a leap as well. Davell agrees. Kolek is ready. Yeah, he even looked nice in the playoffs, even when he played in the fourth quarters. So we'll see how that plays out. Also, we've seen from Mike Brown. Let's shout out Mike Brown again, because he's shown that he's willing to give guys chance during the regular season. Man, now we've achieved the championship And now we can get a little bit flexible in terms of who we play during the regular season with less to prove, right? All you got to do is lock up a top 3 seed, top 4 seed. And I think you want to keep these other veterans fresh. The Josh Harts of the world, Mikal Bridges, although he doesn't look like he's going to take a night off. OGs, Brunsons. You want to keep these guys as fresh as possible. So yeah, I'm all for giving these young fellas with some fresh legs, giving them some more minutes. Like I said, McCullough, bring him back on a two-way. You know, comes back with some experience as well. He'll be hungry. I think he's more hungry than Dardier, to be real. D. Grant says it, man. The Suns have 5 centers. Hornets have 6. CT Leon is just going to sit back, let them fall apart once they start paying them. Yeah, that's wise, you know. Leon always expresses patience, you know. He's not going to force the deal that he doesn't want. And I'm with you. I think, look at Portland as well, fam. They've got Klingon, Hansen Yang. They've got a couple of other dudes as well that I forget. Time Lord. Some of these dudes are going to get cut. Part of the Knicks' patience right now, not just with our situation, is just waiting to see what shakes out with these other teams as well. Look at Dallas, man. Okay, they decided to match Musa Cisse, and they wanted to keep him, and I think that was the right move for them. But what does that mean now? They got a logjam. They got to figure out, man. They got Klay Thompson that they don't want to buy out, so they're trying to find a trade for him. They've got Kyrie Irving on his rickety knees. They've got $50 million attached to Daniel Gafford. They've got Dwight Powell, who's going to shake loose, I think. He's a free agent. They don't have any room left for him. They've got Derek Lively as well. I mean, they are stacked right now, are the Dallas Mavericks. So they've got a lot of things to figure out when it comes to that. Now, on the opposite side, the New York Knicks are one of the most flexible teams right now in terms of spots available. Not money, but spots available. With 3.2 million, 2 spots on the roster, and 3 two-ways still left to shake out. And look, anything can happen, man, all the way up to training camp, media day. We saw the cat trade pop. Well, explode. We saw the cat trade explode on the night before media day. And so Leon's going to keep working those phones all the way up until the season begins. And even after that, with the prorated situation, non-guarantees, we're trying to skirt the second apron. Also, don't forget, the Knicks could technically dip above the second apron at some point during the season, and they could dip below. To my knowledge, we're not hard capped yet. We did not use the $6 million exception, according to, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the Knicks used any part of the $6 million exception. And so they are not hard capped. They could dip above the second apron and then trade somebody and dip back below, man. To keep us flexible, fam. To wheel and deal. Remember, the Knicks love to keep their trade flexibility as well. Yep, we got confirmation of the trade deadline. This year it is now February 11. Teams may not sign anyone until August because of the 6-month rule. That's a good point. That's definitely a good point, fam. I've seen some dudes return from Europe as well. Don't forget, we got a couple dudes, Lonnie Walker. We got Mario Hazonia. Alex Len was overseas. He might want to come back. I think the Knicks did work out Alex Len 2 years ago. They had a vet free agent workout with him. I don't know if there's any mutual interest right now, but again, I think the Knicks are looking for some experience. I don't think they're going to sign a dude with no NBA experience. But yeah, it's going to come down to the right fit. And we've got Drummond, We need another guy that's more solid defensively. I think that's what we're looking at right now. We're trying to repeat. But yeah, how do you guys think? How much of an impact do you think losing Mitch is going to be based on what we have right now, based on Drummond coming in, based on not knowing what's going to be the third big man? Do you think we're going to feel the absence of Mitchell Robinson all throughout the season? Do you think we're going to figure it out and it's not going to hurt too much? Um, what do you guys think? Um, Look, I personally think the Knicks were counting on bringing back Huck Porty, but I think once it got to the point where Philadelphia knew they were going to lose Drummond, they were like, you know what, the Knicks can't afford to pay any more than the minimum to Huck Porty, so let's get ahead of the game and let's go snatch Huck Porty. That's what I think played out. That's how I think it played out, fam. I think the Knicks kind of knew. I mean, sorry, Philly kind of knew with the rumors and the talk of Drummond coming out. He talked to the reporters about not wanting to take any more discounts and all of that. Plus, he's getting older, and they probably thought, you know what, we're not going to bring Drummond back. If he's going to go to the Knicks, let's see what's up with Huck Porty. And so they got the 3.4 million. They gave Huck Porty another $1 million more than what the Knicks could offer right now. I don't think there was any other team in the league that was going to offer Huck Porty more than the minimum. Let's keep it a buck. I don't think there was anyone else that was going to give Huck Porty 3.4 million. I might be wrong, but there's a lot of teams, in a tough spot financially. AP says, what do you think of Philly? Yeah, look, I think Philly are going to be a top 4 seed. And that's putting aside the Embiid health situation, putting aside LeBron. I think the Jaylen Brown pickup. Fam, was big time for them. Personally. And I've got my rankings right here. We talked about on a previous show. Let's bring that up again. Yes, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. This is my pre-season, before the season kicks off, power rankings. I've got the New York Knicks at number 1. I've got OKC, the Spurs, and Philly. And depending on what happens with Indiana, with how they look with Tyrese coming back, I think Minnesota will be good as well. They got, LaMelo. He could take some ball handling away from Ant-Man. That'll relieve some of the pressure. I think Ant-Man can play off ball a little bit. Julius Randle ball handling too much was a bit out of control. I think for them they missed, having a younger Mike Conley. But they lost Naz Reid as well. But they do pick up some depth as well. Ayo Dosunmu was a great pickup. Look, the Denver Nuggets, they've always got the top end talent, but how are they going to do with their, with the depth situation is going to be interesting. And then I think, look, Boston and Cleveland, they don't really scare me much, man. The Raptors situation, whether they get Kawhi or they don't get Kawhi, I don't think they're good enough. I don't think they're better than the New York Knicks, especially at the center spot. I mean, it was a smart pickup actually getting Trey Jemison because, Jakob Poeltl and the big man situation is pretty bad for the Raptors. The Miami Heat, they are going to miss Norm Powell. Giannis is in a similar situation where he's going to have to score a lot. Bam Adebayo ain't really a playmaker, so Giannis is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting. The Lakers are a question mark, in my opinion. And then, the rest fall off, right? Orlando can't stay healthy. Detroit don't have enough scoring right now. I think it's going to be, one of the top 4 teams that wins the trophy, man. It's going to be Knicks doing battle once again with San Antonio, or the Knicks doing a new battle with OKC. What do you guys think? Okay, on the Mitch situation, buzzer beater, salute, champ, says CT. We are going to miss Mitch to a small degree. He was great defensively. Yeah, 100% agree. I think until we replace the prototype of a defensive minded guy, obviously the rebounding Drummond is going to be able to be adequate, but the versatility of Mitch, moving his feet, staying in front of guys, wingspan, recovering, and all of that was key. But on the flip side, you look at a guy, that didn't play many minutes, and how many minutes did he play in the playoffs? He had some critical plays, the deflections and steals and boxing out, rebounding over Wemby. No doubt that was key, but I think you can replace that with a couple of other guys, maybe by committee. And if we just get a bit more versatile offensively with Drummond, with the shooting, that's going to help. So yeah, in your opinion, guys, who had some of the best off seasons? I think Minnesota. You got LaMelo, Josh Green. I like what they did. Look, the Lakers had a huge overhaul, but I'm not too impressed. Obviously, Philadelphia. You get LeBron on a minimum. You replace Paul George with Jaylen Brown. You get younger with Huck Porty as well. Look, Philly's going to be around, man. I don't think Philly's going to be as bad as they were last season, and they're not going to rely on Embiid too much. I like what the Hornets did. Naz Reid, Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal. They got some more. They got some more adults in the room. They got some more veteran presence. They got some feistiness with Grayson Allen. That could work out for the Hornets. They could push for a top 6 spot, man. They were one of the hottest teams in the league down the stretch last season. What else stands out? Look, Phoenix, they took a step up. I don't think they've really made enough moves right now, but you bring back Devin Booker and co. And yeah, Buzzer Beater says, why is ATL so high? Look, that's a great question. You just got to respect the fact that ATL took more games off the Knicks than anyone else, and so and I think they got better. They might not take a major leap, but I think continuity is going to help. I think Jalen Johnson is absolutely a star on the rise. You add Lou Dort, who could be that veteran presence that makes that thing, take a step forward. I think Devin Carter could have been underutilized. And I like Aaron Wiggins. I think that's Aaron Wiggins. Yeah, I think they picked up Wiggins. I think, they made a couple of nice underrated moves. But look, with that said, I don't think ATL are a contender right now, but I've got them in that second tier, Ultimately, I think they miss scoring, a lot on the shoulders of CJ. You're buzzing, man, on a Saturday night watching this live stream. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let us know what's on your mind, right? Are the Knicks going to repeat? Is anyone else really made a splash, right? Outside of Philadelphia, man, I think, look, the East, look, the two teams out West are going to be formidable, but I don't think the East, whilst it's going to be probably more like competitive in terms of parity, I don't think one team has really made too much of a splash outside of Philadelphia and, Indiana with Tyrese Halliburton coming back. I'm not worried about anything Boston have done, and I'm definitely not worried about Cleveland. I'm not worried about Detroit. You know, they've still got to figure out the Jalen Duren situation, man. Um, so we lost Jeremy Sohan, we lost Huck Porty, Mitch, we lost Trey Jemison, but we brought everyone else back. And we talked about tonight how we're going to fit Tyler Nickel on the squad and why it is critical that the first deal we give him is a second round pick exception, not a two-way. Right? If you give Tyler Nickel a two-way, it could go the Huck Porty route, where he's, you know, you can only lock him down for 2 years if you convert him. Because you drafted him, take full advantage of that and give him the Tyler Kolek treatment, give him the Deuce McBride treatment, and try to give Nickel a 3 or 4 year deal on the cheap. I'm talking dirt cheap. Give him the 1.4 million, you know, 1.8, whatever it is, for 3 years, 4 years, and that way you guarantee that if he pops, you're not trying to, you know, you're not under too much pressure under the second apron, right? If he becomes a rotation player, then you're absolutely cooking right now. And with some question marks still remain over Mo Diawara, right? He's still got to prove himself to a certain extent. Pacome Dardier is 1 foot out the door right now. So out of all the young players that have come and gone in the last 3-4 years, I think there's an actual spot for Tyler Nickel to carve out some minutes in a couple of years. I'm not saying right now, but in a couple of years, there could be a spot that opens up, right? Landry Shamet could be here for a couple more years. Then he's got a non-guaranteed deal. Deuce McBride could be out the door in a couple of years, if not right now. Mo Diawara, like I said, still has to grow his game and develop some moves. Right now, he's very predictable. With that extent, Tyler Nickel has an opportunity, and I'm not surprised why he might reject college to test the waters in his rookie season with the New York Knicks first, because there could be that opportunity, man, also to take that long-term guaranteed money in the NBA. Might just be better than the 1 year college route, because things can change real quick. D. Grant says Pistons, Celtics, Sixers, Miami. I think those teams will be in trouble. Interesting. Yep, I think Pistons, man, their front offices, really got work to do. They failed that fan base, especially in the playoffs. Cade Cunningham still got to find that running mate. Look, the difference is Brunson found his running mate. I mean, he's got multiple running mates, obviously, but Karl Anthony Towns really stepped up, you know, in a major, major way. David Smith says, you realize refs were targeting Cat in the finals against San Antonio, calling these bogus fouls because he was cooking Wemby to try to extend the series, but sure, let's blame Cat. Be better, Knicks fans. BKNY says Cat is the man. Look, Cat, man, obviously he's no unsung hero because he was major, but with Cat, right, like I said, Brunson found his running mate, and or it could be vice versa. At one point, Cat was the MVP. Like, maybe flip the script in Game 5. Let's say Brunson didn't have the 45 piece and Karl Anthony Towns had a 35 piece. Cat could have been MVP. OG as well. That's what makes the Knicks so great, man. If OG had the game of his life in Game 5, he could have got votes for MVP as well. And that's why the New York Knicks, ladies and gentlemen, are the team to beat, because they're unpredictable and they're versatile. You know, the scoring doesn't just come from one guy, although, you know, sometimes it looks like it does. They defend as a team. And yeah, I'm just excited to see some of these young guys take a step forward. I'm looking at Kolek being more of a factor this season. Obviously, Alvarado's here, but Kolek just gives us a different dimension, man, with our offense. Let's keep it a buck. Nobody unlocks Cat to the likes of Kolek, who's just looking to pass. He's just looking to find Cat and get him going. He's just looking to set people up. But now what makes Kolek more dangerous from what I've seen is he's got the confidence now to just pull up. He's got the confidence to take that shot that makes the defense pay. We saw it in on Christmas Day as well. So yeah, I think Kolek's ready, man. Third year leap. How many players take that third year leap? But again, one of the reasons we're talking about how important it is with nickel is because Tyler Kolek, man, is on the 4-year deal on dirt cheap money. So that is, critical. If you're restricted to a two-year deal, we're seeing what happens, man. Hartenstein, poison pilled. He was out the door. Huck Pority, although it was a much lower number, the Knicks couldn't match. He's out the door as well. Anytime the Knicks give a 2-year deal to a guy, look, outside of Landry, where we got lucky with that situation because we had a little bit more money. But with the nickel, if he balls out on a 1 or 2 year deal, it could be risky, right? It could be risky. So next up, we got the super chat from Buzzer Beater for life, keeping things buzzing. Has Deuce reached his ceiling? Re-sign or trade? Man, appreciate you as always, man. Big up, blessings, and everything. Buzzer, keep it buzzing. Deuce McBride, I think has pretty much reached his ceiling. Would have hoped that his point guard skills or handles could have gone to another level, but appreciate Deuce for what he is. He's a high level, amazing, impactful role player that I think every championship team needs, and every championship team has those kind of guys. You look at the likes of like an Andre Iguodala. You look at the likes of a Danny Green on the San Antonio Spurs. You even look at dudes like J.R. Smith, Shumpert on the Cleveland championships as well. Just to give you all some examples. Obviously, Deuce didn't quite have the playoff run that we hoped, but I think he can. I think he can do that on that championship stage. But I do think he's reached his ceiling. In terms of re-sign or trade, I wouldn't rule out a re-signing. I think the front office, man, the Knicks value Deuce more than anyone else. Otherwise, he would have been traded already. The Knicks have been trying to work a trade with Pacome Dardier. Even at this point, I'm confident in saying they would trade Kolek. I think before they would trade Deuce. But ultimately, it's risky because you just don't know what the market's going to be. He could have an unbelievable contract year, and then you're stuck trying to match a $10 million deal, which I think the Knicks won't be able to match unless a guy like Karl Anthony Towns takes a discount, unless Josh Hart takes a discount. It could be possible. I love loyalty. I love loyalty in sports. I love the story. I love where teams are loyal to a player. The player is loyal to the team. You look at the Landry situation, perfect example. Unfortunately, the Knicks weren't going to go into that second apron with Mitch. But I think if there was a lower number and the Knicks would go into the second apron, I think they would have kept Mitch. So I wouldn't rule out the situation with Deuce, but having said that, it's a business. If Kolek takes a step up, he's the future. Alvarado's still fairly young. If Deuce gets you the big man for the future that you hope to fortify behind Cat, that could be it. You know, Deuce gets paid somewhere else. I'll tell you where some teams I don't want Deuce to go to, man. I wouldn't want Deuce to go to Charlotte. I think he could be perfect for them. I wouldn't want Deuce to go to Minnesota Timberwolves. He would be the perfect complementary player next to Ant-Man and LaMelo. I wouldn't want Deuce to go to, well, it goes without saying, but you wouldn't want Deuce anywhere near Indiana or, Boston. I would love, if Deuce leaves, I would love him to get paid somewhere like Sacramento, somewhere out west. I could definitely see the Toronto Raptors go after Deuce as well, which is ironic because they obviously were high on quickly IQ. Yeah, you guys are buzzing, man. Nickel is money, says Buzzer. Smashing that like button. Jason Benjamin hits us up with a super chat. Big up, Jason. Let's get it, champ. Big season ahead. Can't wait for ring ceremony and banner night. And I just look forward to seeing this team in action once again. Jason says, I want to see how Liam Robbins looks in preseason. Not perfect, but he can be our third string until the trade deadline. He's got some attributes. Yeah, I was thinking about this right before the show, putting together this kind of conversation tonight. 100% agree with you. I do think the Knicks are going to bring in some bodies into camp on Exhibit 9. Basically, Exhibit 9 is, if y'all don't know by now, Exhibit 9, Exhibit 10. Exhibit 10 is a guy on training camp that plans to sign with Westchester. So that could be what Robbins does. Exhibit 9 is more for the veterans that secures secures that the team isn't liable if the player gets injured during training camp as a non-guarantee. But yeah, I think they're going to bring in a couple of these guys on Exhibit 9s, these vets, and they battle it out. And I think they cut the ones they don't want, and if one guy stands out, they could get cut and then join again on a non-guaranteed deal after the season commences on a prorated deal, which would keep the Knicks below the second apron, as well as giving Tyler Nickel a standard deal. So that's, I think, if we can't swing a trade for the guy we want, I think that's the next best scenario right now. Bring in some of these vets or some of these guys to try out on a non-guarantee. On the Deuce situation, D says, I know Knicks fans love Deuce, but he has reached his ceiling. But if the Knicks trade him for a center, I welcome that. Yeah, you just got to look at the state of the roster right now, where there's a log jam. Like I said, Jack Cargill. Shout outs to Chris Persianen reports that front office is very high and impressed with what they saw with Jack Cargill. Despite him going back to Europe, that really has nothing to do with the Knicks, how high the Knicks are on Cargill. It just came down to roster crunch, came down to finances. And Cargill just couldn't sign a two-way and secure a buyout from his club. So, look, Cargill goes back to Germany for one more year, but I think he's going to come. I think he's going to come in the 27-28 season. I mean, he's NBA ready. Showed it in Summer League. He looked athletic. He looked comfortable on the ball, looked poised, pulling up from deep. And I think Cargill, man, one more season playing against grown men as the starting point guard for Alba Berlin, that's just going to do the world for Jack Cargill. And, let's say he leads his team to the title once again in Germany. Man, if he was college eligible, he would be a lottery pick. So the Knicks got something really cooking. Like really cooking with Jack Cargill. So, yeah, when it comes to Colette, comes to Deuce, Alvarado's here as the vet. Yeah, there is a crunch. There is a crunch right now, no doubt about it. But I do think this Kyle stash has bought the Knicks, man, one more year. He's just bought the Knicks some time for a guy like Clarkson to just come in and just try to get us another chip. David says, hope the Knicks can sign Richards as the third string, best available guy with the highest upside. Yeah, I think as the remaining free agents sit, yeah, he remains at the top for me. I just kind of think like if the Knicks wanted him, they would have done it by now, unless he's trying to wait it out, to kind of see what else is available. Don't know if there's many other teams with some cap money. E. Harlem salute says can't afford to keep Deuce, need to trade him ASAP before he ends up walking for nothing. That's a fair point. Like I said, I brought up that loyalty situation. It is very rare right now. Loyalty in the NBA, loyalty in sports. Deuce has more than been loyal to the Knicks. He's been playing on a bargain deal. He's got a young family, and he's got a kid to look out for. He wants to get paid right now. He's got the hernia situation. Deuce he's coming for that bag. As I said earlier, I think there's a world where the Knicks could bring Deuce back on a kind of like a mid-level kind of deal, depending on how much of a discount Cat is prepared to take. Depends on how much of a discount Josh Hart is going to take. But I do think it's really important to point out that the summer where Josh Hart has a team option, Deuce McBride is a free agent, they could swap, they could basically swap money where Josh Hart takes a lesser deal, not as cheap as Deuce's deal, but he takes less and Deuce takes the rest of that money. But obviously we'd be depending on Josh Hart, and we don't want to do that because Hart deserves his money as well. Like we can't be asking every player to take a discount. It just is what it is. But I do think Hart will take less. I do think Cat will take less. Next up, Buzzer Beater with a super chat says, to the chat, post your biggest concern for next year. Great question. Great question, fam. My biggest concern ain't really related to the squad. It ain't really related to the rest of the East. Personally, my biggest concern is just the hunger, the thing that you can't replicate, the feeling before you win a championship, the desire, the focus, all of that. Once you win a title, it's very difficult to repeat because you're coming back, I guess, and this ain't the case for every player, but for the most part, you just ain't as hungry. But with this squad, these guys are built different. So, yeah, I might be completely wrong, but like I said, I think just that's the biggest concern. It's nothing to do with the competition. Next up, Champ Jason in the building with another super chat. Appreciate you once again, man, for the contribution, keeping us all locked in, keeping us buzzing. I'm personally against trading Kolek for right now. Kolek is a playmaker, and let him and Alvarado eat some of those early season minutes so that Brunson can rest. And yeah, that's a great comment, man. I 100% agree with you. I think we achieved what we achieved with the title, and it's amazing. But it's an amazing story that a guy like Kolek, who we drafted, could be the next in line to be, have a long Knicks career, that we developed, we drafted, we locked up on a 4-year deal. He could be the future Deuce or Mitch in terms of Leon likes to trade for players, and most of our squad was built on free agency, but it don't hurt to have a couple of guys that you drafted that stick around and actually impact winning. Right? If you look at everyone else, man, Landry, free agent, Alvarado we traded for, Cat, OG, Hart, McCall, Brunson is free agent, but all the other guys we traded. And so, like, yeah, I think the Kolek story is a good one. We lost Mitchie. That one hurts, but like I said, yeah, Mitch got paid as well. And look, Mitch gave us more than enough service, outstanding for what, 8-9 years. Mellow Mike, shout out. Let's go, champ. Salute to everyone in the building. Great off season so far, and yeah, we still got to put the finishing touches on this thing. Reports this week, Ian Begley, that Tyler Nickel is focused on starting his pro career. So I love that. I respect that. Look, he knows the situation. It's going to be tough to crack this rotation and get any opportunities. He would not be forgiven for going back to college and earning a huge bag for that NIL. But at the same time, like I said, the Knicks could be looking at that 3-4 year deal to make it worth his while. Give him the Tyler Kolek treatment on a 4-year, $2 million deal or something per year, so that if he pops, you've got an outstanding team-friendly deal. And that's what the Knicks love to do, man. That's their wheelhouse. You look at the opposite with Pacome Dardier. Okay, you had to draft him. You had to pick someone with the first round. But now it starts to get expensive with Pacome Dardier. Next season, he's going to be on 5.3. So, worst case scenario, you don't pop, and then you're going to have to move on from him or pay him. You don't want to do that. At least if he pops, you can say like, oh, okay, there's some promise there. We're going to give him the $5 million. But yeah, the Knicks have had more success, man, in the second round. There's just no doubt. Now D would move Kolek or Clarkson and get a quality big. Yeah, I hear you tonight. Yeah, you've been all about solidifying the big man situation, and I could see it because look, Drummond, he could be underwhelming, especially when it comes to a playoff picture. And that said, but I do think that the Knicks are working on it, fam. I do think Leon's going to get that future big man right now. I do think he's going to find the right guy. And look, we do have the trade chips, whether it be Kolek, Deuce, Cash, good old friend Cash, good old friends, second round picks. The Knicks could do something. They can wheel and deal. At the end of the day, Charlotte might just be asking for Deuce, which is, look, you want to be sure that you're going to get Diabate, or at the very least, Kalkbrenner. But I'd still be hesitant because the Knicks need scoring still. The Knicks need bench scoring, right? To the chat's point tonight, Jason's point, you want to make sure Brunson ain't... Yeah, Brunson, he can be captain. He could be the hero. But, it's always good when he doesn't have to be. And so get us some more minutes with Kolek and Cat. Get Cat going, man. He's the most dominant big man offensively still in the league, outside of probably the Joker, out of respect. I think obviously the Joker can hurt you in so many other ways, but Cat could be right alongside the Joker is the best, most damaging big man in the league offensively, right? Get him going, right? We all know how much more engaged Cat is defensively when he's feasting and beasting. I'll never forget game 2, man, against Wemby, right? That'll be one of the things that kind of gets glossed over in this championship. But Cat absolutely dominated Wemby when he took him to the rack. And he lit him up, spaced him out. I think it was game 1 or game 2. But yeah, the start to the NBA Finals, man. Cat definitely took it to Wemby. He's Wemby's kryptonite, man, because he can space him out and he can take him to the rack. Jay says, I think the Knicks did offer Dink a contract, but he turned it down for that NIL money. Yeah, 100%. I think we heard an interview recently from one of the coaches from Providence. I think that actually confirmed the Knicks tried to get Dink paid on a two-way, but he turned it down, yeah, to keep his eligibility, which is that's fair for him. He can keep developing and get that bread. He can develop and get that bread, fam. But yeah, I'm going to follow Kyle throughout the season as well. You know, keep everyone up to date what he's doing overseas. You know, he's going to get plenty of minutes once again, going up against grown men. So that's going to be good for Kolek too. Yeah, Shaq. Shaq is a hater. Yep, I see that. We still own his draft rights. Yep. E. Harlem says, yep, good to see you broadcasting, CT. Glad I caught tonight, man. Keep it 100. Appreciate you. Let's go, champ. Yeah, it's kind of been funny this off season because like we've never been in this situation, man. Obviously, I've never seen a championship, but we've never seen a season now where we were champions and we're repeating, we're defending, and so that whole dynamic is just so unique, man. Everyone's kind of coming for us now, so yeah, really looking forward to seeing how our leaders face that. That's going to be a challenge. Brunson ain't never been in that situation before. Hart, Cat, like none of these guys have been in that situation in the pros where they're having to defend their crown. And so yeah, I look forward to seeing how they respond early in the season to the first bit of adversity. I mean, even bad teams in the league now are going to be a lot more competitive, right? We even saw last season the Utah Jazz had big nights. Sometimes we had the Dallas Mavericks give us a whooping. You know, the G League Indiana Pacers beat us as well. They were always trying to get up for those games. Imagine now. Imagine now. Everyone's going to try to get at the New York Knicks. So it's going to be a tough challenge, man. That's why I think, yeah, veteran presence, toughness, defense, that's going to be key to keeping us in the fight, keeping us in these battles. I like bringing back Clarkson in that locker room. Still, my best free agent move, was getting Landry Shamet back. So versatile. He's kind of that Dante. Let's keep it a buck. Losing Dante hurt, but we could not have had a softer landing from losing Dante to getting Cat and then finding a Dante replacement in Landry for basically nothing, for just cap space, free agency. That could not have worked out any better. Finding success with Landry in terms of just playing that Dante role. Slightly different players, but Landry's a guy who defends perimeter, gave us the shooting that Dante gave us, talked a bit of smack, against some dudes that were trying to get at us, stepped up, defended, and was big time. So I think, yeah, getting Landry back on that $6 million deal with some non-guarantees in the third and fourth year was absolutely incredible. Keeping Clarkson was good as well. He's going to have his moments, I think, in the regular season. The Chaos Squad with Kolek and JC off the bench with Cat, they're going to eat. CT, is there anyone down under we should be looking at? Not for I think for the upcoming draft, not to where the Knicks are going to be picking, brother, but definitely keep an eye out on Dash Daniels, who's Dyson Daniels' younger brother. Yeah, he's another defensive-minded wing. Yeah, he's gonna be in the league. He's gonna be a first round pick. He's playing professional now in the NBL. One more year to work on his game. But yeah, Dash Daniels is going to be in the league from next season. I'll keep you posted on the next one. Um, Felicia says it's also a reason no one wants to make a trade with us unless we give up a lot. No teams want to make us better. Yeah, agree. The Dallas situation, man, through hell or high water, they were gonna match the Ceesay deal. They weren't gonna let the Knicks embarrass Dallas again. Uh, Even if they had to trade Daniel Gafford, you know, discount Dante. I see you. Dirty Dancer says do up Reith. Yeah, do up Reith, still got youth on his side at 28, I think 29. Look, 3 years ago I would have told you Jock Landale. And who did people want this off-season? Jock Landale. Who got paid? It was Jock Landale. He was a little underrated as the backup to DeAndre Ayton when they were both on Phoenix. And look at their careers right now. DeAndre Ayton trying to scrape on these minimum deals. Who would have thought Jock Landale, who ended up getting a $14 million deal, would get more bread than DeAndre Ayton? Becky Hammond is working the concession stand at the Paradise Theatre. Nice one, fam. Yeah, all the haters taking their attentions elsewhere right now. Yep. The kings of the NBA are coming back to prove the haters wrong once again, right? How is this even possible, right? But how is OG Anunoby still this underrated, right? I mean, like I said earlier, he could have been the MVP of the finals if Game 5 was a different script, you know? OG Anunoby, you guys saying like his Deuce hit his ceiling yet? I don't think it's crazy to say that OG Anunoby might not have hit his ceiling yet. And he's older than Deuce. Think about that for a second. It's possible OG becomes even better as a shooter, right? His numbers keep going up. In the Knicks' dynamic offense, he's getting better looks. He's playing with more talent. The shooting took a step up. OG Anunoby, okay, the spacing is better. He attacks the closeout at a higher level now. He can put the ball on the floor with better spacing. So OG was more impactful that way. What else can we say about OG Anunoby? He became more durable. Shout out to the medical staff. Right. I don't think it's crazy to say OG Anunoby is the premier wing, the premier two-way wing of the whole NBA. Right? Okay, like superstar wise, scoring wise, there'll be the handful of people that, you'll take your Shai Gilgeous and that, but they're the number one option. Jason Tatum, they're a number one option. Anyone else that's not a number one option as a role player, OG Anunoby is the premier wing. Every single team in the league would move heaven and earth to get OG Anunoby right now, right? If OG Anunoby was available in a trade, I would love to see the crazy packages. Not that this is ever going to happen, but in a hypothetical scenario, if OG Anunoby was available by trade, man, there would be teams offering insane packages right now, right? You'd probably see Mikal Bridges level packages of players 3, 4, 5 first round picks potentially. And yeah, I just love to see his growth. I think, he's grown into that third option as a championship team, on a championship team. Has OG, unselfish as well. cerebral, crashed the glass on that winning play after he wasn't guarded. Dirty answer on the Pacome Dardier potential trade, try to sign Bruce Brown. Interesting. I think, yeah, Bruce Brown's a free agent right now, isn't he? So maybe you could swing something as maybe a sign and trade. But yeah, I think Pacome Dardier's best chance to stick is if he just steps up defensively. The shot is still inconsistent, and he's limited putting the ball on the deck. But I think if Pacome Dardier can muscle up and become a real above average, reliable NBA defender at the wing spot, that's what will keep him in this league. Otherwise, he could be on the first thing back to Europe, man. He could be playing in the Spanish ACB in 2 years, 1 or 2 years, just like Lonnie Walker did, just like Mario Hezonja. You know, you got to be able to defend if you're in the NBA, man. Or if you're in the wing situation, you have to be able to defend, right? Teams will live with the streakiness. I think if you can at least shoot 35% catch and shoot. But yeah, I think Pacome Dardier still has to make steps up defensively. Summer League was underwhelming. Yeah, the camp deal situation. I don't know if Eubanks or Nick Richards would accept a camp deal, but it would be smart, to try to bring them in a non-guarantee. Buzzer with a super chat says, "What was the worst take on the Knicks championship run?" Look, there's so many. This is an amazing question, man. Let's get into it. Probably the one that stands out to me right now is I'll give two, actually, man. Buzzer beater got us buzzing so much that I'm going to give you two. I think one of them was the Knicks got lucky. Obviously, the Knicks got lucky, and the fact that it was the most dominant postseason run in NBA history, you cannot even use the word luck, right? 16-3, or whatever it was, like 15-1 in the final 16 games, like doesn't even come down to luck. So that's crazy in itself. And the other one was like San Antonio. I think it was the coach or assistant coach talking about, yeah, we led 70%. Right. We believe we were the better team because we were ahead 70% of the games, 70% of the minutes we were ahead. So we still believe we should have won. We still believe we were the better team, man. And to me that was crazy because it's like, okay, you take out the first quarter. If you included just the second, third, and fourth quarters of every single finals game, the New York Knicks were the teams ahead, ladies and gentlemen. So what they want to talk about one quarter? So yeah, I think that was a crazy take. At the end of the day, also the game's 48 minutes, right? To win the ball game, you've got to be ahead at the final buzzer. I just think it's just a way of people coping. Obviously, they've never seen the Knicks win. I get it. I can't imagine what it would be like to be a rival fan and just see the Knicks finally put it together and be dominant. People just, these things make people do crazy things, say crazy things as well. But at the same time, if you've been paying attention for a minute, the Knicks have been laying the foundations. The Knicks have been putting those building blocks, block upon block, with Leon Rosehire, Brock Aller, William Wesley. It was Tom Thibodeau, Julius Randle, culture building and setting, and then hitting on each calculated target. Josh Hart, Brunson, Cat, McHale, OG. No other team put together this masterclass. of, of contracts and targets and trades and executing them, right? It's one thing to highlight a few trade targets, but to actually pull it off and get every single one. Thank you to the Portland Trailblazers for giving us Josh Hart, for Cam Reddish and a first round pick. Thank you to the Pelicans, and no particular order, but thank you to the Pelicans for giving us Jose Alvarado, for Dalen Terry, and a bag of chips. Right. Thank you to Toronto Raptors, right, for giving us OG Anunoby, for Quickly, who is a bit unproven still, and RJ. And thank you to Minnesota for giving us Karl Anthony Towns, the greatest shooting big man, for Julius Randle, right, and Dante, obviously. And of course, Brooklyn got what they wanted out of their deal with the first round picks. What else am I missing? So we shout out to the front office. So we shout out to Gerson Rosas, who came in and solidified things as well with senior experience as the vice president. Had experience as the president with Minnesota under working with Tibbs. That was a big time pickup because he was the one working a lot of the trade phone calls. Right, it wasn't Leon Rose always on the calls. It was the day to day. It was the grind. It was the meetings, the scouting, the phone calls. All of these trades worked out, man. All of these trades paid off in the end. I mean, and some of them look more of a fleecing now than they did in the beginning, man. How good does that Josh Hart trade look even now? Like Cam Reddish ain't even in the league, to my knowledge. And the first round pick became, what's his name? It became that wing shooter, I think, on Portland, the brother of the Sacramento shooter. I think that's who the first round pick became. The Karl Anthony Towns trade. I mean, Julius Randle ain't even on Minnesota no more. Dante DiVincenzo is injured right now. So that Karl Anthony Towns could have been a finals MVP. That was an absolute heist right now. So that's what it takes, man, to win the chip. David, who's Cat's biggest fan, says before Cat got here, Knicks hadn't made ECF in 25 years, hadn't won the chip in 53. Cat 3 consecutive finals, conference finals in a row, and a chip in the last 3 years. Winning player, highly impactful. Yeah, shout out to Cat and facing that adversity too. What stands out to me is I remember right after last season ended, man, in that disappointing loss to Indiana, the hit pieces, man. Remember that hit piece came out from, I think it was a dual piece from Fred Katz and James Edwards of The Athletic. And obviously they got a lot of intel and, very credible reporters. But at the same time, man, they were out for blood in terms of whoever leaked and whoever was the source, deflecting a lot of blame. And look, Karl Anthony Towns deserved a lot of criticism as well. But the rest is history, man. The way he responded, man, was huge. And at the same time, you can't forget Cat had his moments last season in the playoffs as well, we probably don't beat Detroit if he doesn't have that game 2 or game 1 against Detroit. We don't force Indiana to 6 games if Cat doesn't win us game 3. Game 3 in Indiana, he brought us back into that series, man, with one of the most dominant fourth quarters you'll ever see. Dirty answer on Buzzer Beater's question. Worst finals take. we only won because the games were 48 minutes long. Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, we only lost 3 games, man. I think we went a whole month and the Boston Celtics were still, they had lost a ball game more recently than the New York Knicks did. Yeah, Cam Reddish just can't get that consistent jumper. He can't. Yeah, Chris Murray. Yep. Keith Murray. Buzzer says we're probably better off with Keith Murray. Yeah, facts. Chris Murray. That's the thing. You end up with another Pacome Dardier. You know, just another mid first round pick, late first round pick. I mean, look at Quentin Grimes bouncing around. Look at Emmanuel Quickly bouncing around a bit. Well, Quickly got paid the bag, but it's hit or miss with these late first round picks. I think you're better off scouting in the second round for a sleeper. So yeah, what plays out with Cat's next deal is going to be big time. I do think that extension is coming real soon, but I'm really excited to hear that Tyler Nickel looks like he's going to be with the squad at some point this season. Maybe he starts on the two-way, but tonight we explained to y'all why it is important, which deal that Nickel ends up signing, because if you sign him on a two-way first, then you basically lose the benefits of drafting him by only being able to give him a 2-year deal, right? If you sign him to a standard deal straight away, you can give him the second round pick exception up to 4 years and have team-friendly control, just like with Tyler Kolek. And so with that said, man, with the third big spot, I would just pull in some non-guaranteed guys for now and let them battle it out. Wait for the season to start and get them on a prorated deal that doesn't count against the cap for the full season, and then make sure you lock up Tyler Nickel on a standard deal, and then figure out the rest by the trade deadline. So that's my plan, guys. You know, I wouldn't be mad at signing Nick Richards, Drew Eubanks, but you've got Drummond, you've got Cat. I prefer to play OG some minutes at the 5 before I play some of these other stiffs. And so the third big ain't that important to me right now until we get the guy we want. But I would make sure that Tyler Nickel gets a long-term deal, and so that we don't end up losing a player like we did with Huck Porty. Right, because there will be other teams circling, man. In 2 years' time, they'll be circling like vultures. If Nickel ends up, looking promising, then you're stuck. You're stuck. You're a second apron, close to the second apron, and all of a sudden a team can just poison pill. But right now, we have the control to give him the deal that we need to give him. So we'll see how that all plays out, ladies and gentlemen. But appreciate everyone for rocking out with us tonight, man. Let's get it. On the next one, we'll keep you up to date. When these deals drop, what's going to be the next deal? Right? Is it a camp deal? Maybe one of the two-ways, man. What's up with Kevin McCullough? Right. I saw on Instagram he's vacating overseas. But Kevin McCullough, right? Trey Jemison left on a two-way, and we haven't heard anything about Kevin McCullough and what kind of deal he might be on. Another second-round pick that the Knicks might end up moving on from and losing. But yeah, the summer of champs continues, and we'll keep it buzzing until the next one, fam. Peace and big up to everyone out here. Smash that like button and subscribe to the channel, and I will link up on the next one. Peace.